I'd like to propose a toast. The time has come where we no longer have to hurriedly put in waiver bids. We don't have to haggle with Sean over whether we can with that penny or not. We do not have to debate
about Chris Boswell
or Matt Gay. No, fellas, the time has come to sit back and relax and enjoy a new waiver-free life. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, it hits so good. Shit just hits with no waivers, fellas.
It does feel different.
Any words that you guys would like to say, this burden that has been lifted?
I don't know, man. I'm just so psyched not to have to pick up a new kicker or, turn those little edges. It's nice.
Yes. How did those edges compound for us? That is what we're going to get into tonight. We have no show sheet
spreadsheet that shows how many. No.
I want to ask you guys about some starting lineup decisions.
Yeah.
So we can do that at some point.
We can do that. Pat and I do have some sad information. Last week, we were getting very excited about being able to update our bios with FFPC League Champions 2020. Pat, it's going to have to wait another year.
We're going to have to wait, man. We did lose to Jungle Cats, which looking at that matchup, we kind of thought we were pretty big dogs. Turned out that way. We got some duds from guys like Justin Herbert and Terry McLaurin. Couldn't handle that going against a team with DK Metcalf and some other heavy hitters. So,
well, you know what's so tilting about that? Looking at those lineups is because he had DK Metcalf and he had Justin Jefferson, and we debated very long and hard about DK Metcalf versus Cortland Sutton. Went Cortland Sutton, and we didn't debate at all about Justin Jefferson versus Jalen Reagor. We just took Jalen Reagor.
Well, we had to get Jalen Reagor, Pete, because we'd already stacked up the Eagles offense. So it was critical that we complete that stack.
I listened to we got Leone in the chat. I listened to your guys' podcast about diversification. And I was like, I really wish Pat would have had this epiphany about diversification about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Literally, this class, Ben Gretch, it's shooting fish in a barrel. Rookie wide receiver breakout. Boom, boom. We're over here getting signed LaVisca Chenault helmets and Rager exposure. Like, how did this happen?
It is kind of tilting. I did the same thing. I got a lot of memes too, I picked him up. I don't have Justin Jefferson in any leagues either, so I'm right there with you guys.
How did we miss on Justin Jefferson? I remember reading an article on Rotoviz. I think Blair wrote it. And he's like, Justin Jefferson is the one prospect in this class that checks every single box.
Well, it's the same reason I didn't draft any Thielen. It was that we knew that Minnesota wanted to be really run heavy, and they have been. And we knew that they weren't going to throw a lot because of that. The result, though, has been that the entire passing game just flows through two players, which maybe we should have seen coming. It happened a couple years ago with Thielen and Diggs in 2018. It didn't happen so much last year. Obviously, Thielen got hurt, but Diggs wasn't even necessarily that target dominant last year. He didn't even have 100 targets, even though he mostly stayed healthy and Thielen was out. But 2 years ago, we did see this with Thielen and Diggs, and now we're seeing it with Thielen and Jefferson.
Yeah, I think with some of these high-end prospects, to me, and by that I mean especially the guys who are like spent 3 years in college, early, first-round picks or early second-round picks, and were productive. I don't want to overthink it past that. And it's like, then you start breaking ties on team situation. And I think, I felt the same way as Ben. Like, Justin Jefferson's situation didn't look that appealing. Rager's looked more appealing at the time. You look at CeeDee Lamb, his looked much, much more appealing. So you kind of just move to making specific bets on these guys. And you, as a result, kind of forget about some of the other guys in a class like this.
So deep, yeah. I mean, it's hard. I love Mike's comment. No one, he might be serious because he's so into projections, but no one was afraid of BC Johnson. It was just the offense. I think that's sarcasm, right? I can't tell with him sometimes.
No. Eric had said he was afraid of Olabisi. I do think we had that narrative. I mean, this whole idea. Like, here's a really interesting thought experiment. Is Justin Jefferson having a bigger year in this offense than Diggs would have if he stayed?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, Diggs is awesome, and he switched teams in a COVID year and is having an amazing season. So I would lean no, but I think it's like a coin flip.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I guess I wasn't thinking. I was just thinking probabilistically, like it would have been really hard for Diggs to do better than what Justin Jefferson's done. Right? He's been so good. But yeah, if we're trying to say like who's the better player right now,
would you see Sean's article?
Diggs.
He's saying he's projecting Justin Jefferson in an efficient market that he'd be a top 5 dynasty startup pick this year.
Right, but part of that's because of age, and I don't
True.
think he means that he's a better player than Stephon Diggs at this very moment.
True. Okay. Yeah.
That early startup dynasty conversation that's been floating around Twitter, that's a wild one. For a while, it needed to clearly be CeeDee Lamb now. Then it was DK. I think there was a week where people recognized that A.J. Brown's way better than DK Metcalf, but we won't go there. So then A.J. Brown was in the discussion. And then now it's Justin Jefferson. T. Higgins was in the conversation for a while. There's a lot of young, good receivers, and everybody wants to name all of them in the top 3 or top 5. And there's not that many spots in the top 5. There's only 5 spots. That's how a top 5 works.
And by like August, or I guess most people doing startups probably more like June, July, there's gonna be a bunch of running backs slotted in there too. So this is gonna be an awesome year to do startups. Like one of the best years. I mean, as good a year as this was for redraft, I think it's going to go kind of the other way, where this is going to be the year to do startups because you're going to get deals on these guys compared to where they should be going.
Well, the year before last, we did that with Juju. And then last year we did it with DJ Moore. And those guys are not anywhere near that range anymore. I do kind of feel like we're overreacting a little sometimes. Like my big thought with these rookie wide receiver breakouts, and like they're the best ever, is there's not enough era adjustment going on. People are like, he was as good as Randy Moss. Well, okay, Randy Moss did that 25 years ago, but even guys who did it in 2010, this league has changed so much just in the last decade, massively. 2014 was a huge breaking point when they started emphasizing defensive holding and illegal contact right after the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. And made things a lot easier on receivers. It led to increased shotgun. It led to increased 3 wide receiver sets. It has created an atmosphere that has made it better for not just young receivers, but rookie quarterbacks have been way better since then. It's changed things. It's changed the way the passing games are played so much.
I'm having to hear, like this whole offseason, we're having to hear about how we shouldn't draft wide receivers early because of all this stuff, because now there's more receivers on the field and guys aren't going to command the big market shares, and wide receivers too deep to really put all your eggs in that basket. You should take the running backs and then you can sit at wide receivers later. But like Justin Jefferson, yeah, his yards per target's awesome, but he's also commanding a gigantic target share. He's like, and these guys like DK Metcalf, they're commanding big target shares and awesome offenses. It's like, I do think that I get what you're saying, that it's, there's a more pass heavy league, but in some ways I'm almost more impressed by these guys going against some of these trends and forcing the offense to funnel through them, like we're seeing with DK Metcalf, with Justin Jefferson.
Well, I think it's a lot easier to get on the field if there's 3 or 4 receivers run, out in a route, or at least 3 receivers out in more routes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's easier to get on the field, and that I think was a big part of it with a lot of these other rookies.
Yeah,
if you look historically. So anyway, I have a
that's a good point.
I actually wrote sort of a satirical article at RotoViz in like 2015 that was like, I went through like 10 different guys at that time, and included like Brandon Cooks and Allen Robinson and all these guys who were breaking some type of age-based yards or receptions or touchdowns record at that time. Jarvis Landry was one, whether it was, career before age 23 or best single season, before age 22. You could do whatever qualifiers you wanted and bring like 10 receivers at that time into all-time historical range, like top 3 all-time. And it's only gotten worse since then. And this isn't to like dog Jefferson or anything, but people love to be like, he's having the greatest rookie season of all time. I don't know that he is. Actually, a full stop, I don't think he is at all. I think this is a completely different era where there's a way more advantageous to rookies breaking out. What Randy Moss did in 98 is way more impressive. It was way more of an outlier than what Jefferson's doing now in the context of a lot of rookies doing well.
I'll buy that. Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point too, it's probably a little of column A and a little column B, right? Like 2014 in this class, 2 historically great wide receiver classes, and you have those trends of going more pass heavy, the rules and stuff. I'm trying to make a point, and Leone is distracting me with his Periscope.
Leone just wants to be on the show.
Leone, go watch on YouTube. I'm about to pull the plug on Periscope anyways. I'm so done with Periscope. But yeah, I think that's the thing for me, is that I do think this rookie class is just so incredibly, like, do you guys think it's better than 2014, Ben? Because you're kind of pushing back against this recency bias, and I agree with you, but I do feel like this class is better.
No, it's a tremendous class. It's probably better than 2014. It's super good. These guys are going to all be amazing. It's more, I think, an argument that it's hard for me to put these guys so high when we just did this with DJ Moore. Maybe I'm pattern matching, but we just did it with Moore. Just did it with Juju. Guys with good pedigrees who came in and were really good right away. It might be a little bit of an overreaction to put him ahead of, really good receivers in their prime. Like Michael Thomas, I expect to be really good for another half decade. Like very, very, very good. He's continued to be good with Taysom Hill under center, except for some weird contacts in games. Anyway.
So the thing you deal with in Dynasty is that what happens if you're wrong? And like DJ Moore, we were wrong, but like DJ Moore's going to go in probably like the early 4th round of startups in July, maybe even higher.
I was going to say, if he does, I feel like that's like, a round and a half off of what he should be.
Yeah. So like this year sucked for him, and not that much changed. But if you end up being wrong about Michael Thomas coming off of this year, like if we're sitting here, it's time next year and Michael Thomas had another down season, it could get a little ugly, So it's like he's maybe not the best example because he's young enough to where there would be guys kind of buying back in, kind of like Odell Beckham this year. But that's what I'm always trying to think about. Like, yes, is it likely that Justin Jefferson tails off next year? For sure. But even if he does, like, so what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to take him in the top 5 of startup, but he's not going to go in top 5 of startups once we actually start doing startup drafts. He's probably going to go.
Try doing a startup with Sean.
Well, yeah, that's why you should not do startups with Sean C.
Should he be ahead of CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah.
That's
for sure he should.
Lamb was doing very well and was pretty clearly a better prospect. Jefferson was close to a perfect prospect himself.
By the numbers we like, Ben, he wasn't. Okay. They were like equal. They were both first-round picks. They both had broken out. Jefferson actually had 2 seasons where he had broken out, and then they were both true early declares. So like they kind of checked those boxes that we're looking for. And then Jefferson had the absolute smash season, and as you just look forward, he's going to have the solid quarterback play. And he's going to command probably even a bigger share of his offense going forward as Thielen tails off. And then we've got an issue with Prescott. Like, when is Prescott going to be fully healthy again?
Yeah, I think the quarterback thing is part of the equation. Like, part of the point I'm trying to make, too, because, like, everyone was really pumped about Lamb right before Dak got hurt. And everyone was super pumped about Higgins right before Burrow got hurt. And both of them were sort of on the same trajectory as Jefferson. And now it's, like, clearly Jefferson's having the best year of the 3, but all 3 of them showed they can play. Yeah.
The Higgins thing is such a bummer because there was an argument for him above Lamb as we look ahead to next season. I probably lean Lamb there, but you could certainly make the case. And now with Burrow going down, I think you have to. So
if we're trying to untangle this more, like, what do you think CeeDee Lamb's stat line would be like on the Vikings this year? Because he is a slightly different player than Justin Jefferson.
It's a really good question. I think it would be really good, though. But
I think you'd have
again, it's hard to say anyone would be better than what Jefferson's done because I don't even think Jefferson, if we didn't know what he'd done, could be better than what he'd done.
You'd get laughed at for suggesting what he has done was possible.
Right.
Yeah, you would have gotten laughed out of a room.
Yeah.
I think Lamb would have had a very good year with a healthy quarterback. So like the other side of it is like if we're talking about Dak getting hurt or Burrow getting hurt, what if What if Russell Wilson gets hurt next year? What happens to DK Metcalf's value? Like, I think DK Metcalf isn't even a top 20 receiver in that scenario. I think that's a little bit crazy, but
I agree. I agree with you, Ben, because one of the arguments I was making when we were debating DK Metcalf versus Cortland Sutton, and obviously that looks disastrous in hindsight, but I was like, I think DK Metcalf wouldn't have had as good of stats as Cortland Sutton in the Broncos offense. Like, I think Cortland Sutton creates more than DK Metcalf, and DK Metcalf is just the nut stylistic fit with Russell Wilson.
I agreed with you before the season on that, but having DK break out like this, I mean, DK's having this awesome season, and he just like drops touchdowns all the time. He like drops big plays. Like he's actually leaving a fair amount on the field because he just kind of is too big for everybody. He's too talented. I think DK would be. It would depend a little bit, I guess, on who the backup who comes in is, but I think he'd get fed.
Is he too big and too talented, or does he just have an absolute ridiculous surplus of very well thrown deep passes that he's like? I mean, obviously he's getting open too, but I do think Wilson is probably the best deep ball thrower in the league. To Pete's point about how good of a fit they are.
It would hurt a lot, but I mean, I think
like if he's getting Drew Lock throws, he wouldn't have the chance to drop so many, you know.
But he's better than Terry McLaurin. Like he's better than Terry McLaurin in football.
Yeah. I think so.
So I would take, if you're giving me like an Alex Smith type quarterback, okay, that sucks. I'd much rather have Russ, but I don't think he's just like being propped up.
Can we have an AJ Brown, DK Metcalf discussion though? Because sort of for me, this whole idea of like who the top dynasty receivers are. And sorry for kind of just hijacking the whole show that didn't really have a.
We didn't have
show.
You can't hijack it.
Ben messaged us earlier today. And he's like, "Wait, are we doing the show? We don't have waivers to talk about." I'm like, "We don't need anything to talk about to go live on a stream, Ben."
Yeah, AJ Brown to me is really hard not to rank over DK Metcalf because I think he's proven time and again, and people might be surprised by this, but Corey Davis has, I believe, more targets, receptions, and yards than him right now. I mean, you can go look at, and they played the same number of games.
I updated them last week, not this week. I had DK Metcalf as my number one dynasty wide receiver.
Right.
AJ Brown was third.
AJ Brown is like, I think there's a case to be made that he isn't even doing as well as maybe it appears this year because his touchdown rate is so good. But I just think from a player's style perspective, there's virtually no doubt in my mind that AJ Brown's going to be great for the next decade. There's like no scenario that I can see. Like he is so good at so many things. He's going to continue to be effective. I feel like he's in the almost not the worst spot because Tannehill's good and then the offense is smart, but Tannehill will not feed his number one receiver. He does not throw. AJ Brown doesn't even have 110 target game all season. He does not throw the ball to AJ Brown when he's covered, or rarely. He takes some shots, but he goes to where there's openings. And that's been like, if you watch these games, it's been my theory about why Corey Davis statistically is even close to AJ Brown. Corey Davis is just freaking unguarded for half of his catches, and they're usually in comeback mode. Most of his 100-yard games, they've been trailing. He's caught all these second half passes. They're super easy catches if you're watching the games. Sorry, Corey Davis is not as good as people think. But AJ Brown to me is better than DK Metcalf. They played 20 games together. He had more than double the number of receptions when they played those games together. He had 175% of the yards. He dominated DK Metcalf when they were on the field together. And Metcalf to me is very fragile to a Russell Wilson injury in the way Lamb or Higgins were. They lost a lot of value. Now we're not even talking about them in the same breath as Jefferson. And I don't think AJ Brown can be fragile like that. He's top 3 for you right now, even though he's not producing all that well in terms of targets and yards and all that in a run-heavy offense because he's just that good.
About Corey Davis.
Remember when Corey Davis went at 5 overall? Yeah! Guys, remember when Corey Davis went at 5 overall? Yeah!
So obsessed.
Corey Davis went at 5 over.
Oh my God. Gretch, do you remember being on that live stream?
Yeah, I was hosting that thing. I remember you guys coming on. Yeah.
Hi, Jack. Stream, Gretch.
Yeah.
You guys did great. I remember that very, very well. It was fantastic.
My favorite part of that still, so for people who want a little context to that was, what year was that court? Was it 2017?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so Pat and I were in Philadelphia live at the draft, and RotoViz was hosting a live stream, and Gretch and Friedman and Kevin Cole and a bunch of people were on. And so we called in live from the draft, clearly right after Corey Davis got called. And the funniest thing to me is Kevin Cole was on the stream, and he dropped off the second we got on. He was like, these guys are drunk and they are loud, and I want no part of this. And immediately dropped off.
That was the best.
Yeah, I don't know what we're.
And that was right. It took a while, but it was.
Hermanmeyer came on later and was wearing one of those visors, those like green clear visors.
Yeah.
he was rocking the casino look, and he was drunk as hell too. We had some good drunk cameos on that stream.
Hey Rocha, you can ask a serious question, but we're not going to talk about like gender politics or reparations or anything like that. So I mean, don't push it too hard.
Yeah, we'll try to stick to the dynasty wide receivers for now.
Yeah.
I don't know but Pat, what is your take on that? This dichotomy between like the long-term confidence you have in a player being really good, because AJ Brown's still very young. And you still have him ranked very high for these reasons, right?
Yeah,
but he also very clearly
he's ninth overall.
Yeah, he shouldn't be expected to score as many points right now as DK Metcalf, though. I can acknowledge that, because DK Metcalf is in an offense with Russell Wilson. As long as Russell Wilson is healthy, Metcalf I would have ranked higher rest of the season in redraft for sure, because he's freaking DK Metcalf right now.
Yeah, and that's what it kind of comes down to me. Like the way I think about Dynasty is like, if you would take DK Metcalf first in redraft next year, then you should also have him ranked higher in Dynasty, because you can always sell DK Metcalf. Like if I can turn around and sell DK Metcalf straight up for AJ Brown, and I think he's going to score more points than AJ Brown, then I should rank DK Metcalf higher. Like that's the more valuable asset. He's more productive and has more trade value.
But you talked about the fragility and like the downside of like, older guys. We were talking about Michael Thomas at the time, but they're like CeeDee Lamb's value and T. Higgins' value have taken a significant hit just because their quarterbacks got hurt. They'll probably be back next year for the most part.
Yeah, they've taken a significant hit in season and compared to like when we're evaluating them compared to Justin Jefferson. But CeeDee Lamb and T. Higgins are still premium assets because their quarterbacks are going to come back. So, and I think if Ryan Tannehill went down, that would hurt AJ Brown to some degree. Like if he had to deal with, I don't even know who their backup quarterback is, but whoever it ends up being next season, it would hurt. So but in both cases, and this is something I look at, Russell Wilson is very much in place. He's not going anywhere. And so is Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is going to be the quarterback of the Titans in 2022. Like he's going to be there for a while. We kind of have a stable situation of solid quarterback play that's clicking with the wide receiver. So I do agree that quarterback play, as you look out, is important. But I mean, quarterback injuries are usually pretty devastating. So it's more about like, if you're tied to like Ben Roethlisberger or Aaron Rodgers, where now a quarterback injury takes kind of the thesis of the play and makes us rethink that. That's a big deal. But I can't, there's only so much you can bake in like a guy in his prime going down.
I don't think a Ryan Tannehill injury would impact my projections for AJ Brown very much at all.
Ryan Tannehill is playing incredibly efficiently. The volume there is very low. So I don't think another quarterback would come in and be able to play as efficiently as Tannehill has. I mean, Mariota wasn't.
We got the question A. Rocha wanted to ask, and this was serious, man. I didn't think we were going to go here, but apparently we're going to go here. He wants to know Stafford, Tua, or someone else to save him at quarterback for the fantasy playoffs. Do you guys have a take?
I actually have a league just like this. I started with Dak. I got him relatively cheap in an auction, and he got hurt. And then I tried to play Andy Dalton for a week, and he was terrible the next week. Then I traded for Joe Burrow. He got hurt. I picked up Teddy Bridgewater. He got hurt. I literally have had 4 to 5 in-game quarterback injuries in this league. And I still won the points total. This team is stacked everywhere else. It's incredible. But I'm going into the playoffs right now with Mitchell Trubisky, Teddy Bridgewater, and Andy Dalton. I'm rostering 3 quarterbacks now because this is like a home league where people are rostering 3 QBs. I need options.
But Trubisky and Dalton have great schedules, right?
Yeah, Trubisky's the one that I like the most. I'm probably going to drop the other 2. I just had Daniel Jones, and he got hurt in game and left last week. I had him last week starting. Tua, and so whoever I start next week, you should just get off your roster. This is like the most predictive thing. But Tua and Jalen Hurts are the 2 that I think are kind of interesting upside-wise that I'm probably going to try to stash along with Trubisky. They all at least run a little, and you want at least some mobility, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in on Tua for a playoff quarterback. I haven't seen a ceiling, and I think Hurts is kind of interesting for sure, just because you might get the rushing there. He should add a lot more with his legs than Tua, I think. Stafford, I mean, at least he showed a ceiling last week. I think that's because Marvin Jones actually succeeded in his Kenny Golladay impression, and that will normally fail pretty hard. So it's fragile, but I mean, I would take Stafford over Tua because it's a playoff. Like, you can't just plug in any old guy to get a couple points, right? You need someone who can have a realistic shot at having a ceiling. So I would go with Stafford, and then I think I'd go with Hurts, and then I would go with Tua.
All right. No more start sit questions.
Who would you take?
I like the Trubisky call. This was we got 2 back-to-back Steelers here, one from our pal Dan Masterson. Chase Claypool, thoughts going into next year. I'm fascinated by this one. I was pretty liberal banding about my Chase Claypool as this year's Odell Beckham takes. Probably got a little out over my skis there. I still think he's pretty damn exciting, but then when you get back into the quarterback conversation, right, of like what happens to this team and this offense without Roethlisberger, where are you guys at? I'm a bad friend, so I haven't seen Pat's updated Dynasty rankings. Where are we at on Chase Claypool?
I'm still pretty high. I mean, this past week was really rough. And Ben, I want to get your thoughts on like what happened, because James Washington all of a sudden is playing a bunch more. Chase Claypool was barely out there to start the game, to the point where I thought maybe he had been injured like pre-game and wasn't active. Like he was not out on the field. The first time I saw him, he was blocking for a screen, and I was just glad that he was out there. He's playing really well when on the field. So we have this setback now. It might be something that impacts his value rest of season. So it's something that we have to consider. But as we look ahead to next season, you've got this guy who's like huge and pretty athletic, and he's to date over 2 yards per route run, one of 2 rookie wide receivers over 2 yards per route run with decent targets, the other being Justin Jefferson. So what he's done this year has been very, very impressive. Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, is likely to leave. Not that will necessarily open up direct routes for Claypool, because Claypool's not going to run out of the slot, but maybe Deontay Johnson kicks into the slot or something. Or, if they want to get James Washington on the field in those sets, Deontay Johnson's in the slot, and you got Claypool and James Washington on the outside. I don't know. Roethlisberger should be there next year. He's under contract. If he's healthy, it should be fine. So looking ahead to next year, I'm still excited about Claypool.
I'm really curious where you have – you said you still have Lamb pretty high and Higgins pretty high. I think Claypool's another example of that, where we saw the peak in his rookie year at one point where we would have probably talked about him as a top 10 dynasty receiver, a month or two ago. Where do you have those 3 in relation to each other in your ranks?
So who did you ask about? Claypool,
Lamb, Higgins, and Claypool are the 3 that I think are interesting in relation to each other.
I have Higgins at wide receiver 22. These are a couple weeks ago, so some of this, but I had Lamb at wide receiver 12, Claypool at wide receiver 15, and Higgins at wide receiver 22.
Got it. And I think that's fair. I think you can shuffle a lot of guys in those ranges, because the dudes in between there are probably like Stephon Diggs probably falls. Some good veterans probably fall in there, right? Like some guys like that.
Well, Stephon Diggs, I have at wide receiver 11. I have him above all 3.
Okay.
Just literally one spot above Lamb, just because, Diggs is such a beast.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I've got DJ Moore, wide receiver 13, one spot behind Lamb, Lockett, Amari Cooper right behind Claypool, Allen Robinson, Mike Evans,
and so a lot of that's
Waller.
like, how much do you value age? You know, in certain league types, people undervalue rookies so much that, you know, it changes the way you'd value it. But anyway, I think that's interesting where you have them. I don't have an answer for your question about the James Washington thing. That was weird. I mean, it's almost like it was a hot hand thing, like with running backs. He caught that pass, he made a play on the sideline, he goes for a touchdown, and then he earned more routes because of it.
Yeah, and I think Levitan said that that Roethlisberger had asked for more James Washington, which I don't love to hear. But I don't know. I mean, what's going to happen once the season ends is that everyone's going to zoom out and start looking at the stats that we've been talking about, like yards per route run with Justin Jefferson, and they're going to go like, you know, the last wide receivers to get over 2 in yards per route run were like Terry McLaurin and all these other studs. And this year it was Chase Claypool and Justin Jefferson. And we're going to hear that.
And they're going to post a GIF of Justin Jefferson. And it's going to get 36 retweets, 214 likes. And Pat's going to go, I've been writing about this all year.
I know Pat's side of that feeling. I'm sure you know the GIF side of that feeling.
Yeah.
With all the retweets and the likes.
Yeah.
Two sides of
But my point with that is that you've got with, you know, Claypool is going to be someone that people are excited about heading into next season. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. And I also think he's good. And so, like, this is a good time. I mean, most trade deadlines have passed and stuff, but I think it's you're protected, you're insulated to be comfortable, to be excited about Chase Claypool. And I'm excited about Chase Claypool.
Yeah. I kind of want to do another Dynasty startup just to draft a shit ton of these 2020 guys. And DJ Moore, if I can get him in the mid-4th.
Do you guys think do you guys think 2021 picks are going to be overvalued at all just because of how good the last 2 classes have been?
Probably.
I'm kind of thinking they will be, right?
I feel like they're overvalued every year, and maybe even more so this year.
And then the interesting side of that is, with so much good young talent, I saw this case made on Twitter vaguely, but with so much good young talent in the league now, there's not as many openings for young guys to come in and be productive because a lot of spots are now spoken for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always new spots, but
you know where there's a lot of room for good running backs? We could use a few more of those in the league.
I mean, Larry Fitzgerald has played
literally
the entire
one
season. AJ Green is still playing.
We could use literally one good running back. It would be great.
Yeah. Look at the Anthony and Mike trying to get me to do an auction Dynasty league. I mean, if you didn't get me to do one in a COVID year, good luck getting me to do one when there's a vaccine, baby. I'm going to be out at the club ripping shots with strangers while you nerds are bidding $1 up on James Robinson. Fuck off. That was for Eric for saying cleanest show in weeks and Family Man isn't even here to enjoy it.
The auction, Dynasty auction, is a slow auction. Pete, we won't get Pete. This isn't even a sell for Pete, but for anyone in the audience who hasn't done it, it's awesome. Like, it's really good. And it's like a whole different experience than doing like the fast redraft auction that you're used to. I did not, there was sort of a learning curve for me where I realized a few picks in that I'd completely screwed myself over and that I had to tank. And now my team's going to be absolutely filthy in 2023, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a blast with that too. I did the same one with you. That was a really good group Leone put together. Yeah, it was a blast.
Let's do this because we sometimes now forget.
You missed it. You didn't miss it, Dan. We didn't talk about anything.
No. Matt, we have some teams in the championship round.
No. I'm saying we just have been bullshitting this whole show.
Oh, yeah. You know, like a while ago, we got an iTunes review. They're like, these guys used to talk about their teams. And, you know, it's funny because there's the trope. No one cares about your fantasy teams. And then people are saying that
tell that to our iTunes reviews.
Yeah, tell it to our iTunes reviews. So here's the deal. We were in 3 main events this year. One we slow drafted, one we did in August that had the Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey, Dak double stack that obviously flamed out. And then we have the team we drafted with Crack Rock. So We finished second in our league with the Kamara slow main team. So that one advanced.
First in points and second in playoffs.
Second in playoffs. And then our Crack Rock team finished first in points, first in standing. We ended up getting third place because we got bounced in the semis. But I'm extremely hopeful for that team because we got Eckler, we got Henry, we got Gaskin, we got DJ Moore, Claypool,
Diggs,
Keenan
Allen,
Diggs,
yeah.
Hawkinson, Henry, Josh
That's
Allen,
a great
Herbert.
team. That's a great team.
I'm hopeful that we can make a run with one or two of these teams. And our team with Ben and Sean that we talked about last week, we just had a rough week here in the championship round. What happened with that team? I can pull it up here.
Tyreek caught a touchdown that he didn't think he caught.
Yeah, that hurt.
And then he got another one that got called back by holding. It was very fun.
Benny Snell had like the worst fantasy efficiency game of maybe
in NFL history. Yeah, that was a blast, that game.
Yeah, that was really painful. Yeah, so we lost by 37. You get the 3 from Benny Snell. We miss out on, what did we just say it was? Like probably 20 points from Tyreek?
Yeah, like he should have had a 30-point game pretty easily. We
take a bagel from Kyle Rudolph with Dalton Schultz on our bench. That stings.
Yeah.
And Harris and Snell was our biggest decision, and we went with Snell, and Harris at least got double figures, and Snell did.
Yeah,
I feel pretty good about the Snell call in a way, but it hurt.
I think we were all on board with Snell, right? Did any of us push back on that?
No, he should have. He got either 4 or 5 green zone looks, and they were all from like the one. He got 4 in a row from the 2 or 1 yard line on that one drive.
He had like 20 expected points. Literally, he left. I think he had negative 16 plus expected points. I'll pull it up right now. It was crazy.
Let's also just talk about, too, one of the favorite tropes of when you hammer wide receiver early and people say, how are you going to be able to start all those wide receivers? This is a true 0 RB team where we're drafting waiver wire pickup or starting waiver wire pickup Denzel Mims in week 13. You need these wide receivers. You need as many of them as you could get.
The one, so I had this one with you guys. I had 2 main event teams. One with Sean that did not make it. And then one with some other people outside the industry that I wanted to ask you guys. This is the one with the one kicker that we were chatting about that started, chasing kickers, which is,
that's been great. It's been great. I'm having to wake up very early.
Eastern time block. I was just destroying it.
I just want to give a shout out to everyone who turned on notifications and have been getting up at 3 a.m. for that show. I mean, I know it's an unorthodox streaming time, but you guys are passionate about kickers, and we'll continue to deliver you guys the goods. 3 a.m.
He's a friend of the show and everything, but I thought it was a little petty. I know kickers are kind of his thing, but for Denny to do a Wii stream against chasing kickers at 3 a.m.,
It reeked of insecurity. And like, to me, this whole kicker community is a rising tide lifts all boats situation. The more people that learn about the gospel of kickers, the better. So Denny, if you could just kind of stand down, do 2 a.m., 4 a.m. Eastern, anything, we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we could go back to back. So I have Kyler in this league.
Gretch was so done with this bit. He's like, let me get back to my
I want answers.
Are we done?
I want answers from you guys. So we have Kyler. We have Alvin Kamara. We have a bunch of dudes that we did not do well in our playoffs because that have not been good lately, but I think can turn it around. Mark Andrews, who's been out. But so we had DJ Moore and Will Fuller. This is the league that's just like, oh, fucking fun.
Yeah.
So I got to make decisions on flex. So at receiver, it's like Diggs and Ayuk, and we can play Christian Kirk with Kyler. So I'm kind of curious, like, what you guys think the viability of that is in the championship round. Obviously, stacking is great, but Kyler doesn't have to be stacked. And then we have Kamara, J.K. Dobbins, and Ronald Jones are basically the only other 2 backs that we're going to be considering, and we might want to play all 3. But I'm curious your thoughts on Dobbins. Didn't catch any passes. Without the TD late, probably wouldn't have had a very good line. And what you guys think about Jones too. And then we have 3 really good tight ends. We have Andrews, Gronk, and Logan Thomas. And like right now we have like Kiki Cutie and Michael Pittman as additional flex options, but we could wind up playing multiple tight ends. So I'm kind of curious how you guys would play this starting lineup. Would you be looking at a third running back? Would you be looking at multiple tight ends? Like, what do you think?
Well, Ayuk would be a lock for me for sure.
Yes. Diggs and Ayuk, I think, are the locks in the 2 receiver spots, but
I'm very excited about him.
Pittman, QT, and Kirk are like the other receivers. And then Andrews, if he's healthy, I think is a lock, but then you could have Logan Thomas or Gronk in the flex spots instead of those receivers. Or you could have both of Ronald Jones and J.K. Dobbins in your lineup. Where do you lean on that?
I mean, come on. You just asked an alcoholic if he likes alcohol.
Yeah.
Please do it, Ronald Jones.
Let's go ahead and lock in Ronald Jones in one of those flex spots.
I mean, a lot of us have talked about the passing schedule.
Can I share
for
my
Tampa
screen?
Bay. Yeah, you can.
All right. Here, don't.
What? Just make sure you don't have
Can
anything.
we just a reminder, 4 for 4 sponsored this show. I think still technically sponsored, I'm not sure. But just we haven't been mentioning 4 for 4 enough, and I did just want to remind everyone that John Paulson ranked Ronald Jones for 7 receptions at one point. I just thought it'd be good to mention our sponsor, 4 for 4 Fantasy Football. John Paulson, one of the best.
I just put in. Can you see this?
Yeah, I got you.
I just put in Ronald Jones, Kyler, and Kamara. I don't know why we have Pittman in. I'm not on Team Pittman right now.
Paulson did update that ranking. I wanna make sure everyone knows.
Like we could play QD. We could play. The Kirk question is a big one. What do you think about like needing to stack Kyler right now? And then should we just be playing like this? Should we just be playing a ton of tight ends and sitting Kirk and Pittman and QD and playing 3 tight ends right now? Because those guys are all not bad options.
Let's see here. Okay, so you're basically deciding between stacking Kyler or cranking purple is what you're deciding.
Or Dobbins along with Jones.
Dude, I mean, what isn't this? I mean, you were writing about it. I saw some of the snap count stuff. I mean, the J.K. Dobbins snaps are incredibly discouraging.
I didn't look at his snaps yet. I didn't write about it.
Oh, sorry.
Last night. Yeah. But
I think it was Daigle who was I saw tweeting about those.
What were his snaps?
Let me pull it up.
Oh, that's right. You can see my screen.
Ben, keep that naughty stuff you normally look at.
Oh, Ben, go to Pro Football Reference.
Hey, save it for chasing kickers. That's when the freaky shit comes out. Let me see this. Daigle's probably tweeted out like 100 snap counts since I last saw this. Here we go. Let me get this up here.
Anthony's asking me about Prime LT versus Ronald Jones versus Pittsburgh. Anthony, I don't know if you know, but Bud Dupree got hurt, so this one's pretty easy.
So Dobbins, 21 of 55 snaps last night. Gus Edwards, 18. Ingram, 11. There is Justice, and his name is Justice Hill, had 6. Dobbins, 11 of 26 backfield touches. For you math nerds out home without a calculator, that's 42.3%. I mean, Sean has been very aggressive on the J.K. Dobbins hammer play. He doubled down on it last week, but it's discouraging. Those numbers are discouraging.
So Gus was running well, too. J.K. was running well, too, but, man.
I think you're right on that. He didn't catch any passes. Hill's been playing on third downs, too. I'm kind of concerned about Dobbins' upside. He's just kind of a trap back. Like he's an early down runner. You have to rely on rushing efficiency, and I think it can easily be there in this offense, but it's tough to see a big ceiling in, the tournament portion of this that's going for $500K. Like Ronald Jones, I think probably has a little bit more ceiling, so that's fine. But then the question about Kirk like jamming in Gronk or jamming in, QD, who I think I would have QD ranked ahead of Kirk in a vacuum. But
yeah, I hear you on that. Kirk's been the thing with Kyler is that if he's not right, I think Kirk gets hurt the most.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's the only guy running deep routes right now.
And I mean, you guys were talking about, that offense, we're back to the horizontal raid, right? Like they had like no deep shots last week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
to your point, when we talked about DFS, about like you raise the projections when you're already, like the correlation type thing. Like we're already playing Kyler, so if we're going to win the 500K, Kyler's going to have to be good the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, but he doesn't necessarily have to throw deep. He just needs to start running again.
Right.
So, I if it was Hopkins or something, and you'd have to play him through it,
Yeah.
But Kirk is like a specific part of the Kyler profile that I think you could. There's paths to Kyler, like putting up the 27 points per game or whatever, and Kirk doesn't necessarily do all that much.
I mean, yeah. What like I'd probably let it rip with Gronk. It seems like his role continues to increase. He's getting targets pretty deep down the field. Like I was like having to squint. I was like, is that Rob Gronkowski sprinting down the seam? Like it's, fucking 2016. Sorry, family man. But I've been legitimately surprised at how he's being used of late.
I think I'd play QT because
QT's a good option too.
He played in the slot, but he was also used on the outside. And it looks like he's basically a full-time player that he'll kick to the slot, but he's not like exclusively in the slot. So it's more than just the Randall Cobb role. Ben seems to be zoned out looking at the comments.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
For you, Ben. I'm giving you advice.
You set me up right now because I'm not paying attention.
Dude, I just want to recap what happened. Gretch derailed a great kicker bit we had going to ask us a start-sit question, and by the time Pat and I got fully engaged in answering it, he had already moved on.
Zoned out.
My daughter bought me the tiny champagne bottles I was telling her about.
You have your alcohol mules working for you in the house.
So wait, what was the take?
My take was QT. My take's QT because yes, he plays in the slot, but he also plays on the outside. So he's kicking into the slot, but he's not one of these guys who just only plays in the slot and leaves.
Did he play on the outside?
Yeah, he played somewhat on the outside.
Interesting. I mean, the way, I don't know if you saw signals, the way I read that usage, I mean, QT's routes and everything were great, but he had like 40 air yards on that 1 3rd and 10 that Watson extended. He did run kind of a vertical route, and then he got like 20 yards after the catch. He basically caught it like a punt. He was so wide open because the play was sort of extended and he was lost. But he wasn't like – he ended up with a lot of air yards, but he wasn't like running a ton of downfield routes. His ADOT otherwise was, I think, sub 10. And then you had that Chad Hansen guy who had very close numbers of air yards and only, did it on fewer targets. He actually had a high ADOT, like a 15 ADOT. I was reading it as Hansen was like the new Will Fuller.
I was so triggered. Oh, go ahead.
Well, Hansen's the new guy who plays on the outside when they're in 3 wide receiver sets. But QT ran 12. He had 12 snaps playing out wide this week, 36 in the slot. So Hansen will be on the field as the outside wide receiver. QT kicks into the slot, but QT isn't leaving the field, and it's not just Hansen and Cooks, which was a concern going into the week because, that's kind of how they played it with Randall Cobb, where you'd have Cooks and Fuller.
What was the deal with Hansen where they like kicked him down to the practice squad and then brought him back up?
Pat, you said 10 and 36?
12 and 36.
Hansen played 49 snaps wide and 10 in the slot. He played 59 snaps. He played more than QT. That's why I think he's like the new Fuller. Yeah, he played like a lot.
So what are these slot wide receiver snaps coming in? Are they 4 wide?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just some teams move guys around or they run trips or whatever. But yeah, it seems like he was, pretty stuck on the outside. It's kind of weird that QT.
You're looking at Pro Football Focus for that?
Yeah. Hansen had a 92% snap share, and then the higher ADOT, 7 targets. I actually went and picked up Hansen in like Scott Fishbowl, and I think he's an interesting stash in like really big formats because he had 100 yards. Like, he's going under the radar because QT had 140, but like. Other than that 160-yard catch that QT had, he was like 7 for 80. Like you would think a Randall Cobb line would be.
Sorry, I just started searching Chad Hansen on Twitter and found a guy who had whipped up a Chad Hansen.
17.
I love his top quote retweet. Is just like he's putting Chad Hansen in the Hall of Fame of great Texans wide receivers: DeAndre Hopkins, Andre Johnson, Will Fuller, and Chad Hansen. All right, Chad Hansen it is.
Hey, you're right, Ben. Chad Hansen ran around on 94% of dropbacks. Although Cooks was checked for a head injury, so that was probably boosting him.
But Cooks was up there too.
Cooks was at 83, and so was QT.
Do you know why I trust Chad Hansen? Not only does he have a blue check mark, he's followed by my guy Patrick Laird. I could hit him up, see if Patrick has it. UC Berkeley.
Oh, Hansen's from. Did they play together? They must have played together. I didn't know Chad Hansen played at.
That's actually, we need to check the years on that.
I'm sure Hansen was a little older. Yeah, he played at Cal in 2015 and 16.
Oh, that's gotta be.
Patrick Laird played there from 2014 to 2018. So he was an underclassman looking up to his guy, Chad Hansen.
The mentor.
Dude.
Chad Hansen, the mentor.
Chad Hansen mentored. Hang on. All right. I'm texting Patrick right now.
Holy shit. All right. I got to see if I can. I got some waivers that run later. I'm going to see if I can get Hansen.
Patrick, are you buds with Chad Hansen? I'll report back.
The fantasy community needs to know the deal on it, man. That's a great
I was
time to
hoping
reach out.
I'll just sit here quietly and wait for Patrick to text back.
We might just go live until chasing kickers starts, guys.
Did Larry text back? Oh, okay.
Oh no. Someone on my streamer, someone sent me a tweet today and said I have small lips. You guys think I have small lips?
I mean, you don't have big lips.
I've never thought of your lips at all.
I'm kind of offended that you haven't. But I'm now a little insecure about it as of like an hour ago.
A little bit. Are you trying to do? I wondered.
The only thing I've thought of with you is that I think you say the word thanks very weird. You always say thanks.
Wait.
Thanks.
As opposed to
thanks. Like
yeah, you do trying to drop the H on thanks. That is something.
I don't know if I'm prepared for this airing of grievances.
It's probably because of your thin little lips.
That's what made me think of it.
But Lauren always roasts me because I never pronounce the L in like wolves, like timber wolves. I'll always say wolves. Like I'll be like, oh, the timber wolves, and like she roasts. Oh yeah, that's one of my only flaws is forgetting the L. Oh my god. Okay,
I always get toasted for saying Jaguars wrong. I cannot say Jacksonville's team name correctly, except I just did. I always say Jaguars, and they're not fans of that.
AUs people get on me about. Like, I don't know. There's this girl in high school's name was MOG, and I would say it Mog. And I would be like, "What is Mog, dude? It's a Mog." Or maybe I don't know. I still can't say it right, so I don't know.
Pat,
cool story, Hansel.
Speaking of behind the scenes from high school, can we get the backstory on the thumbnail photo that I found?
Yeah, so I think that was college.
Okay,
it
looked
was
like you were getting a haircut.
I was getting a haircut.
Okay,
I believe that was my ex-girlfriend's mom. Maybe gave me a haircut, and there was a picture during. The thing is, so the backstory for everyone else of why we're talking about this is because Pete goes through my Facebook and then without context selects photos for the thumbnails for stat chasing. So I finish up stat chasing and then find out what photo from deep in my past he selected for our YouTube channel. And Pete has gotten to the point where he's so far back in time where now he would appreciate some context on the pictures he's selecting.
I had to run this by a few people. I asked Lauren and I asked Leonie. I was like, "Do you guys think Pat will be mad if I use this photo without asking?"
It's an uncomfortable photo, but not quite as uncomfortable as this bow tie and flowing locks over here.
This is what I really need. Will you guys all please go watch, like, comment, and share this video? Because if this video does an outsized number of views, I can go to Pat and be like, dude, you got to send me more shirtless photos for these thumbnails.
Yeah, keep talking about this game theory optimal, but our views are a little down. So if you disagree and you think that Pete should stop digging through my Facebook, please skip this week's stat chasing.
So I got to give it a thumbs up, right? All right,
Yeah.
thumbs up. We're at 22 thumbs up. Let's get a little bit higher than that.
I will say just right now, these videos are criminally underviewed here. Please check out Stat Chasing. We got the timestamps. If you just specifically want to check out a specific team, our guy Change College does that. Pat is so devoted to these that sometimes he'll record for an hour and a half with the wrong mic hooked up, and then he'll just redo the whole thing.
Start over.
Yeah, man. There was one week where the mic was not. It was the wrong mic. It was. It had selected the computer mic. I left that one. I wasn't going to re-record that one, but there was one where you literally couldn't hear me, and I re-recorded like 20 minutes after I had completely done the first one.
Well, it was 2 weeks ago. I think it was just something where you noticed the different mic, and so you had told me, you're like, it's the second file in there, and then I get all excited. I'm like, I got to go watch the ending of this first file, and it's just Pat recording, and then he's fumbling around. He's like, oh fuck.
That's funny because I didn't even watch that.
Yeah. See, people look forward to the thumbnails now. It's now a thing, Pat. The problem is I'm starting to hit the bottom of the barrel, Pat.
Yeah, I'm like literally. My mom was texting me like, "What you had been like asking her for like baby photos and stuff." So I did want to mention that like that. There's a limit. There's a limit.
Yeah,
I get that shirtless baby photos.
Can you put me in contact?
These baby photos are great, but can I get any shirtless
The
ones?
algorithm really loves when his shirt's off, so we need to do something.
I'm gonna have a really hard time when I answer that YouTube prompt that says, "Is this content made for kids?" Here we go. Someone wants a timeline of your hairstyles, Pat. You do have lots of different hairstyles.
Yeah, I mean, you can just go watch Stat Chasing and see the thumbnails. I think you've captured pretty much everything at this point, Pete.
When was your hair long like that?
About 2 years ago. Through about a year and a half ago, I think.
That was, because we were in Vegas one year when you had the really long hair.
Yeah.
But
so I think I cut it short.
I do remember. It didn't look like that though. Like you didn't wear it big and out all the time on like streams.
No, so that was at my brother's wedding, which was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So, so I had to kind of have it.
That's like when you see an actor just like out and you're like, oh, he has long hair now. That looks pretty good on him. Pat's out there flowing locks.
Yeah. And I used to keep it pretty close because when you have curly hair, like the years like 16 through 19 maybe aren't the best for the hair. You know what I mean? It's just kind of going to be kind of so kept it pretty close cropped for the early 20s. Although not entirely, because Pete, one of the pictures you have, I've got these little tight spirally curls.
He either just fell asleep with his eyes. Oh, that's right. That's right.
This was
you have a headband in or something, right?
No, so he's wearing. So Mark and Matt, these are two guys we've met.
The Hodge pictures.
The Hodge pictures are in here. These are two buddies that we have met going to Vegas drafts. A father-son crew from Texas, and they're wild. They're absolutely wild. And so they had these wigs because, well, this was one bit in whatever. I can't even explain all of it. But then this is when we were out with Hodge.
They were man bun.
You were wearing the man
Lance.
bun.
Yeah. And then we went out with Hodge, and there were these two guys, and I think one of Matt or Mark paid him $50 to do something you'll see here in the progression of photos.
I think it was $100.
$100. There's Matt right there watching. There it is. There it is.
He's like leaning back, like Jesus. Oh, he's really getting in there.
Look at that. Look at this guy.
Look at his buddy.
You can't do that kind of shit in 2020, man.
No, man.
For a lot of
You
reasons.
can't do that in a COVID year.
Let's check out some of those drafts.
Okay.
Show us
You're
one of your
sick, man.
teams.
You're
Give us
sick.
one. Which team were you on this one?
Oh, no. What team are we here? Are we one of these?
11? I mean, that's at least a 0 RB-ish team.
I don't know if we're any
The
of
problem is we took a lot of pictures of
Oh.
Actually, this is our team. Yeah, Pat, this was us. This was the year we took fucking Carlos Hyde.
Oh, God.
Wow.
What did we
The
do?
fourth round. Is that when he was starting for the Browns?
Dude, I don't even want to talk about
this is the year we got Kamara, though. This is the year we got Kamara.
Yeah, the one lone bright spot. The year we got Kamara in a smash rookie season and didn't make the playoffs.
Didn't make the playoffs because we
Corey
punted off
Davis. Remember we got Corey Davis in the 8th round?
This must have been 2017. He was
Kenny
really-
Britt. That was a Sean pick. We'd read some Sean Siegel articles. I can tell you that.
That's
Yep.
great. It's CJ Procise there, too.
Oh my
He's
God.
going to be good. CJ Procise was Antonio Gibson before Antonio Gibson. Just want that on the record. Except for not good.
Painful.
Look at it. This is I have no so I remember these first 5 picks. I have no recollection of drafting Jamison Crowder.
Yeah.
In the 7th.
Some said it was a reach at the time, but we had conviction.
Yeah.
2017, though, that was when he was like young and still in Washington.
Oh, that's right.
He was like going to be good.
Yeah, he was
Up
looking
and
pretty
coming.
good.
That's when Douche was writing articles about him as being like a stud. He was 24 that year. He actually put up
I think he was the
789
second
yards.
player. That's not a terrible pick.
No.
The Carlos Hyde pick is pretty gross.
He was coming off an 847 yards, 7 TD sophomore year at 23, and Douche was writing about how you need to trade for him in Dynasty. I definitely took some Crowder that year.
Yeah.
You remember our buddy Barry, Pat?
Yeah,
I was
of course,
just texting with him the other day.
So where is he, in Thailand?
No, he's on he told me he's moving there in 5 years. He still has the long-term plan. And this is RotoDoc here, also in the RotoViz hoodie. You can see. Pat, I believe you had quads at this game. It was like, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You didn't get
I don't know if it was Barry playing in this game. Was it this game? I think I did have quads.
Eric is enjoying this. I have no clue if people enjoy it, but just me going through my old Google photos, remembering what it was like to be out in the world and not just at our homes. Yeah, Barry. So this guy Barry, he was a big Mans fan, and we met him at the high stakes FFPC weekend, and he fell in love with going to Thailand and paying women to have sex with him. Is kind of the quickest way to sum that up.
As you first started talking to Barry, I was watching the view count kind of tick down, and then you started talking about Thailand's and going to have sex, and they all came back.
We're going to hit the X out. They're like, oh.
Yeah. No, he did a world tour. Remember, he went to Thailand, then Amsterdam. Then he was, I think, supposed to go to Vegas after Amsterdam. But if I remember right, he cut off his Amsterdam trip and just went back to Thailand.
Yes. Yeah, he did. These are the good. We did a Fantasyland live show that year, Pat.
Oh, yeah. That was great. We had David Dodds on for that. That was fun.
Yeah. Did you see David Dodds he left Football Guys?
I did see that, yeah.
Oh, what is it? Look at this. I don't know why I have a Ben Gretch, Christian McCaffrey photo in my Google Photos here.
I've gotten every generic looking white guy in my life. I don't remember getting McCaffrey.
I must have stitched.
I saw that
together.
the tweet that was going on recently that was like, who are the 4 people that you've been told you look like? And I was like, I can't even do this. Like every white guy. I got Leo and like Matt Damon a lot. I'm like, I don't look like that.
I love how it's like, I hate these comparisons where they compare me to Leo and Matt Damon.
That's why I feel like
I'm over here. People tell me I have tiny lips, Ben. How do you think I feel?
You can't even say thanks.
Oh my God.
Oh man, who is that?
These
SNL.
are guys that I'm walking on the strip, and he goes, "Are you Pete Manzanelli?" These were two dudes from London who had watched Man's videos that stopped.
Do you have Steve Smith on here?
Yes, I do. Should I pull that up?
Yeah, pull that up. We bumped into Steve Smith.
That's incredible. They recognize you, dudes from London.
Mans was big.
Are you Pete Manzanelli? Is that your official name? Is it Peter Manzanelli? What do we call you?
He doesn't go by Peter, does he?
Those videos were great. The Man's videos back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta do some Man's callbacks at some point in your future.
Pete, who was that poker pro? The guy in the wheelchair that you ran into? What's his name?
Oh, Doyle Brunson.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So the thing about this Steve Smith video is, at the time, I believe he said like a homophobic comment about Denny Carter. So that's the caveat here. Actually, let me. Yeah. So Pat and I. So this is from 2017 in the summer, and PokerTube flew me out as Mans to play in the World Series of Poker, make videos. I brought Pat along to help me film, and we were going to shoot a video at the Bellagio. And as we're walking in, we walk by Steve Smith, and I'm like, Pat, I think that's Steve Smith. And Pat's like, really? And I'm like, and he goes by us. And then, we're doing the thing over the shoulder, and he's like with an entourage, and they're stopping and looking at the fountains.
And I'm like, neck tattoo you recognize?
Yes.
Right?
I was like, yeah, it was something from we had seen on Twitter. And I was like, dude, no, that's his tattoo. I think that's him. So I was like, whatever, let's just go over and talk to him and see if he wanted to record a little thing. And this was shortly after he had roasted Denny on Twitter. So that was kind of my in. So I haven't watched this video in years. We'll
What's
see.
up, dude? It's Pete Manzanelli here with my boy Steve Smith. We just got a little message for Denny Carter's here for Draft Day Consultants. Is there anything you'd like to say to Denny? You've kind of owned him over the summer. Is there anything you'd like to say to him?
Happy Kwanzaa.
Love you, Denny's.
Feliz Navidad.
And should people sign up for Draft Day Consultants, or?
I mean, I never have understood how a guy that sits on the couch who's never played, probably beyond middle school, can be a consultant of watching other men. I think he likes to watching other men in tight jeans.
He does. This is very true.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, I really appreciate your time, baby. Have a great off season. We'll see you later.
All right. I like the bling.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Peace.
I love how he was just doing the Feliz Navidad, and you got him on Steve Smith trash talking. You gave him enough leash to get going, and then you could just step back and let Steve Smith go. That was great. He was like my favorite receiver coming up, man, growing up.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I freaking loved him. I still remember in 2005, I took him in the third round at home league. I was like a senior in high school in 2005. I guess I was a freshman in college in fall 2005. And against my brother, he had this freaking 153 touchdown game that was just like, the rest of my team sucked that week, but was the only reason I won. And it was just a great talking point for years. Remember when Steve Smith put up 150 and 3 TDs on you?
Do you guys remember that year when Cam Newton was a rookie and no one drafted him?
Steve Smith went super late.
And he went super late in that first game. I forget who they played. It was an outdoor game, and Cam just went nuclear. Steve Smith.
Arizona. Cam threw for 400 yards in Arizona, I think.
Yes.
That was 2011 because I picked up Cam Newton that year, and actually a real plug for John Paulson. I literally used his ranks that season, and I had Gronk and Jimmy Graham in their breakout years. So that's how long Paulson's been doing it.
Yeah, that's
crushing it.
Those were huge hits those years. I did not have. I had Graham after that, but I won a championship with Graham for sure at some point. He was so good in New Orleans.
Yeah, he was really good.
I think I took him in the first round one year. It was like the only time a first round tight end ever worked, but he was good one year when he was going really high. He like had back.
He had an awesome. I think maybe 2013 or something. He had an awesome season,
and it was like back to back, right? Because he was actually going high in the draft. I remember taking him high and him being like worth it.
Yeah,
it's like the only time ever. I know people have talked about how when tight ends go really high, they don't actually do well. But
Kelsey this year,
Pat, this is 2016, our first year in Vegas at FFPC. Look at how we're such babies.
It's like noticeably different.
That's amazing.
This is where we started this. Gretch, I also like how you just retweeted this on Twitter. People just come in for me looking at my old Google photos.
They're like, hey, let's go check out this great fantasy talk.
So let's see our team we drafted this year, Pat. This was our Allen Robinson, Amari, Sammy Watkins, Delaney Walker, Jordan Matthews, Arian Foster.
Arian Foster, dude. This was the first one.
Weeks before he retired.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's the Miami year. I definitely wrote him up that year, and I wrote an article that was like, he's going to play as much as he's physically able to. Turns out he did, but just wasn't physically able to play very much.
You were right.
I was right.
Man, dude, I remember sweating not getting Delaney Walker in this draft. We got him. He actually was one of the better picks of the draft.
Sean Drawn. What a deep cut.
That's a cut. He was great. He was a kind of a league-winning late season guy that one year for the Niners.
Remember
Tyler
Urban, Crockett Gilmore? Was it he out of Colorado State? For some reason, I remember that.
Ravens guy at the time.
I liked him for a couple years for sure. I thought Crockett Gilmore was going to be good, dude. I have no idea why, but I
will say if we were just like picking a team of guys who are going to be in the league for a while outside of Arian Foster, this is a pretty good draft.
This was 2016, September 9th, 2016. Pat and I went to Benihana's. Literally the funniest guy I've ever sat next to in real life at this Benihana's table with us.
You're not exaggerating. This guy was like a lost.
The chef or the dude next to you?
No, he was this guy next to us. He was this big black guy, and like he just talked in like punchlines, like funnier than Kevin Hart. Just like every story he told was just like the funniest shit ever. I don't even know if I could do the impression of it right now, or if I should attempt to.
Well, the thing was, like, he was there with his wife or girlfriend, and then so they're at the end of the table, and then it's me and Pete, and then in between us is these two women, unclear if they were just friends or if they were dating or what the relationship was, but they had gone to like some like swinger club earlier. And so they're relating this story. And so like the setups that this guy's being delivered are so good. And then he's just like hitting home runs. So just watching this dude like in batting practice.
Just a home run derby. They're just throwing meatballs.
One really good joke I remember is apparently like the identifying mark for this swingers club had like a speakeasy aspect to it where it was like hard to find it. It had this green door. And he's like, everywhere I go, I'm looking for the green door. Where's that green door? Inside the green door, the treasures I will find.
And his wife is just sitting there like, Jesus. He's like kind of putting up with it, but it's also like he's joking about fucking other women. So she's like, God damn it, dude, we're at dinner with strangers. Can you not? And he's like, no, I cannot. Because I am the funniest man alive.
And then the other bit he was doing was how offended he was that the hotel didn't have a microwave in the room. I don't even know. I just want to make sure I don't do a racist impersonation, but it was just like, he was so offended about like, he's like, everywhere you go in Vegas, you get leftovers. And I come back and I want to have this at 2 a.m. What am I going to do without a goddamn microwave in my hotel room?
No, and that's where his wife was like, no, seriously, we do need a microwave. Then he was talking about finding the green door. There was something because there was a special way that you knock to get in. So he was doing a bit about that too. Anyway.
This is the head of the sports book, Cornegay. What's his first name? Do you remember his name?
Jay Cornegay.
Jay Cornegay. Yeah, and Pat and I were just kind of like hawking him because he was pretty well known in the gambling community at the Westgate, and he's just like, sure, yeah, come back into my office here This is like behind the sports book at the Westgate. And so Pat and I just interviewed him in his office, which was pretty cool.
Did we ever use that?
Yeah, I think we used a clip or two in one of our episodes. This is like the war room behind the Westgate here, where they have all their screens up.
That's awesome.
Oh, and then we God damn it, how am I blanking on his name? Pat, help me out. Denver Nuggets. Doug Moe. Doug Moe is a high stakes FFPC grinder.
You guys talked about that on a pod back then. I remember hearing this story.
Yeah. And then there's our buddy Lance Turbis, who we interviewed just
he was
under multiple influences.
Stone cold sober in this picture. He was not.
That's like, I'm going to hold on to my phone. You're not going to hold my phone.
I think I was showing him, you know what that was? I'm giving him my phone so that he can roast Matt and Mark's draft, which at the time we thought was an absolute disaster. Because it was their first year draft in the FFPC, they didn't bother to take any tight ends until like the very last round. And it was like, it looked like a terrible team. They had taken 2 quarterbacks. I think they took Russ Wilson in like the 6th, and then they went back and got Aaron Rodgers in like the 7th or 8th. So they had just, done a bunch of stuff we would never do. And then they won their league. So, congrats to them.
That's the Jimmy G year.
This is the Jimmy G game. Pat and I hit a little cheeky in-game parlay. We were very excited about this one at the time. And Sam says this episode of Memory Chasing is really making me excited for post-COVID life.
Yeah.
Memory chasing. That is what this is.
Ship chasing.
Remember when we left the house?
It's gonna be so good. We're gonna get together. We're gonna drink beers. We're gonna watch football. We're gonna draft teams. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
All right, guys. This has been a fun stroll.
Did Laird ever text you back?
What? Laird hasn't texted me back. I will update you guys. I will update you guys in the morning. Someone remind me. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Good luck in your week 14 playoff matchups. May your team score many points. Below, we have links to Ben Gretch stealing signals. Go check that out. We got Pat and his sexy thumbnail for stat chasing. You guys will be back Friday at 4 p.m., correct?
Yep.
Yeah, if you want actual advice on this week as opposed to us looking at old pictures, that's where you'll get it on Friday, right?
Friday, you guys will be breaking down all of the most interesting decision points as it pertains for start, sit, DFS, all that good stuff. It's a great show. Fridays at 4 p.m. We are close, guys, to 1,000 subs. Let's get to 1,000 subs. I mean, once we got Ben Gretch on the channel regularly, we deserve to be 1,000 sub show. So sign in with your wife's YouTube accounts and subscribe to the channel.
Seriously, though.
Create 7 more accounts.
That's right. Follow Ben on Twitter, Yards Per Gretch, at Pat Kerrane. Turn on the notification bell. We will be back at 3 a.m. for Chasing Kickers. This has been Ship Chasing. We love you guys. See you on Friday.